We were referred to this deal by the owner's mom. We were referred to this deal by the owner's mom.
Yeah, so this is a referral, right? That it's one of the lead sources that we get deals from. Expired listings, for sale by owners, for rent by owners, referrals, niche list. That's part of the process, right? So as you build out your network, you're gonna get more and more referrals. So I just want to share with you guys what the property looks like, because we can't physically go there here today, nor do I ever plan on physically going there.
Well, and I never actually talked to these guys live on the phone. I talked to the wife once, and then that was just to say hi. My mom referred me. After that, zero conversations, everything by email. We'll go into the nuances in a minute.
Oh, wow. Also, yeah, I think, talk about having a dream team. Our attorney in that office also spoke with him once as well, correct?
Attorney in Florida, yeah. So let's hit, I'll hit that as we go.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop share, and I'm gonna share my iPad so we can start working through this deal. May take
while you're doing that, so referral, email. If there's any part of this, even if you saw this before, guys, a couple weeks ago, if there's any single part of this that doesn't connect for you, that's why we're doing this. You make sure you go ahead and ask questions at the end. So take notes as we go. And as Zach walks through this deal structure sheet, I'll add in some nuances and some conversations that we had.
Awesome. All right. So so we found this. The source was a referral. Deal type is what?
Sub 2 with owner financing.
Sub 2 with owner financing. Okay. So remember, subject to means that there's a loan on the property. We closed on it, and we kept that loan in place, and we're making the payment for them. And then the owner financing portion is they are financing their portion of their equity on the deal.
Correct.
Okay. So what is the debt on the property?
I'm gonna round 319 grand.
19,000. So this is the mortgage. And then the equity in it is how much?
31.
31,000. Are we
and for
holding
some of
it?
you, sorry, Zach. I hear live calls a lot, and your sellers say, "Yeah, my loan is assumable." We're not assuming a loan with sub 2s. If you're new to this, that means assuming you're going to go apply, and the loan is assumable, and if they approve you, you'll get it, and you just sign personally. No, the loan stays in their name. They're the guarantor. I just want to make sure that, like, some of these are basic, and then some of these will be in depth, but just so everybody's on the same page.
And remember, if you have questions, type them in the chat, and then I assume we're gonna have plenty of time. We can also pull you up.
And we'll
31, is that gonna be are we holding that as a second mortgage?
Yeah, we'll secure them with a second mortgage, but there's no payments and no interest until 48 months.
Yeah, so 0% interest, no payments.
Yep. Zach, we should have told everyone, so this deal is done in a company that that Wicked Smart owns. So Zach and I and Nick do deals in it with who? With students that, non-students, sorry, people that aren't in our community that say, you know what, Chris and Zach and Nick, I just can't get my way into the associate yet, or frankly, I don't want to. I got my own business going, but I found this deal. Will you do it? Will you do it with me? So we do it, and then we pay them a referral fee. This particular one was referred to us internally, but that's what this company is created to do. Just so everybody understands, if you're not currently an associate, you're doing deals, you're probably running across this stuff all the time.
Yeah, I just spoke at that event with Ennis and Yoni last night, and they were like, I'm so glad that you came out here, because even though they were ex-community members, right, they're doing deals, they were like, yeah, we just don't pay enough attention, so we just get rid of them. So I'm like, send them to us, please, as soon as possible. So we'll get things directly from that. Okay, so 48-month term on, just on the equity.
Just the equity.
I'm sure someone's gonna probably have a question on that, but when we buy property subject to the existing loan, our contracts do not state that we're gonna pay off the loan in a certain time frame. We're just telling them we're gonna pay off their equity in a certain time frame.
So let's give the story then, Zach, before the numbers, if we can. So it was all by email, and granted, a referral, as Zach always says, is the best source, right? Because you're usually going to get the deal unless you just can't put it together. So I very assumptively talked to them by email like I had the deal. They emailed back at some point, and I'll cut the summary down a little bit here, and said there are comparables in the area at like 370 to 380, which they were absolutely 100% correct. Now I don't have my calculator in front of me, but what I did is what I went over with the high six about a month ago, and that is, I said to him, "You're right. If you go on the market with a realtor, you probably will go on from 370 to 380, but then you got to consider that there's a bunch of properties in the market near you, so you're probably going to get about 97 to 98% of your ask, so that lowers the price a little bit, and then you're going to pay your realtor, that lowers it again." And if I did that with them, you can play with the math here, but if I did that with them, they would have got somewhere between 15 and 21,000 if they were lucky, net, and it would take some time, and they want to leave to Texas like now. They're not behind, but they want to go.
So let's walk through that scenario again. So they originally wanted 389. Is that what you said?
No, they weren't on the market. So they just said there was comps in the area for 370 to 380. So use 375 if you want. Because I'm just winging numbers.
Because we got the whiteboard, we might as well walk through how you came up with that. Because this is all.
Oh yeah, because I want everybody to do this with your sellers. When they go, yeah, well, I want to net this out. You go, well, it's not adding up. Let me show you why. So now you take, if someone has a calculator, you take 97, use 97.5% of that. Who can give us that number? Because that's about, I tell them that's about what you might get. You're not going to get full price. You get 5 people on the same street as you for sale. What's that number, guys?
365, 625.
Awesome. Thanks, Judy.
Okay, so now 365.
So that means it'd sell at that. It doesn't look right. Is that right? 97.5%. Okay. And then take, yeah. What was that?
355, 875.
355, 875. Okay.
365.
355, 875.
Yeah. So then you have the realtor, right?
And then you got to take 96% of that. Sorry, 94% of that because they got to pay a realtor. Yeah.
Then you got to subtract the. 6%.
What's the 94%?
5% now or 6%? Would you tell them?
You can use 5. Do 95% then, Judy. We'll be conservative.
It's 347.
Okay.
Ish.
And they owe 319.
Hey, Chris.
Yep.
Don't forget negotiating for inspection items and also.
Yeah, I hit him with all that. Yep.
Concessions.
This is just generic numbers. You're spot on. Yep. So they would have got, in that case, they would have got what, 28 grand?
Yep, just over. So they would have got roughly 28,000 in equity.
When I did it, I think I used 370 because that's what his email said. So I had him even lower. But basically, I said you can do that. It might sell, it might not. You might be here for whatever time frame, but I'll give you 31 if you can wait. That's how the conversation went by email. Then the next challenge was, okay, but I don't know about this subject to thing with the loan staying in my name. I'm going to ask a few people. I said, okay, you can ask a few people, but if you don't ask people that do these deals, you're not going to get the right answer. So if you want, I'll refer you to a local attorney in your market who knows how to do these deals. And he's phenomenal in Florida. I referred a lot of people to him. He had a meeting with them. I don't know if it was Zoom or in person. I think it was Zoom. And after the meeting, they called me and they said they're all set. Because as an attorney who does sub-twos all the time, he explained that, look, I'm going to protect this against they do on sale. I'm going to put it in a trust. I'm going to make you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the beneficiary. And then I'm going to do an assignment of beneficial interest. Now, I don't want to get crazy in the weeds with legal guys. My point is I had him talk to the attorney. The attorney told him why it's normal and okay, and here's how you structure it. And they went ahead and signed the deal.
Do you have any questions in regards to how we came up with that conversation to get the seller down on price?
Is that a question you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying, does anyone have any questions specifically?
Oh, got it.
This?
And then we can do the math here.
Yeah. Adam, go ahead. Sorry, I'm looking at two. I'm going back and forth right now.
That's all right. One question I had was, when you tell them that you're not going to pay the mortgage off, is that part of the conversation, or is that something that comes up later?
I typed it right in the email, Adam, very clear. Here's how it works. The loan's going to stay in your name. I'm going to close on it. I gave him a date of, I think it was June 5th, because that would mean that they pay their payment all the way up to June. We don't have a payment due till July. And Nick and I and Zach's goal is what? Sell it before July. That's all we're really going to do. Try to sell before June 5th, but definitely sell before July. And that's a long time.
Makes sense?
And I should have said this. We had one of our associates go for us, just boots on the ground. Hey, go take a peek. When Carola Russell was there, she called me and said, I don't know, they got like some rooms already empty and they told me they just want to be gone to Texas. So there was some hints going on that as I was emailing, that I knew that they just want a closure. Okay.
So if you're interested in buying properties virtually, you can certainly do so, because I don't think Chris, myself, or Nick will ever go see this property. I mean, I hope I don't. Unless it's on vacation. I mean, Cape Coral sounds nice. Go ahead, Dan. You're on mute, though.
A couple other items you can use to negotiate down their equity is the holding time it would take to sell with a realtor, and also the cost of repairs.
Sure.
Yep. Yeah, Chris brought that up. Absolutely. Dan, good point. I said stuff like that in the email to them. Yep. You just stack all these things and it's just right in their face.
Great point. How do you refer them to attorney in their area? Do you have an attorney database to get access to?
Well, we happen to have a whole bunch that we know now, right after all these years, and that's part of the luxury of being in the community. We have one right in our hometown that is in 32 states, and he's gotten on the phone. He saved Rick's deal once, one of Rick's first payday ones at $90,000. They get on and save that deal. So yeah, we do it a lot, and we're happy to help.
Yeah, and this is going to be part of your process, right? So if you are buying properties virtually or in person in an area, you're going to be seeking out attorneys that will do these deals with you, right? So just text me. I'll get you that guy's name. You're going to want to use him for everything. So my point is, like, last night, networking meeting, met 2 attorneys that will do creative financing. It's just by simply going out and building your network, you're going to be able to do it. So if you're buying virtually, right, then you would contact the local meetup groups or the RIAs, and you would reach out and you say, here's what I'm doing. I'm buying real estate in this area. Do you know of any attorneys that are active in creative financing and sub 2 deals? And then as you build that up, I know that, like, if you're an associate, we may already have one, right? If you're already part of our community, you may already have one. But if you're not, this is how you do it, because then once you have multiple attorneys in that area, which we've done many times, now you have the ability to refer an attorney to a seller, and refer an attorney to a buyer if needed, because you already have yours. And then you have another person that understands the business, and they'll go represent that. Does that make sense?
By the way, guys, I know Zach said if you're not in, that's your path. He's giving you the pathway. In my opinion, and I'm a little biased, if you're in the community, these things are going to come up all the time. This particular deal you're going to see in a minute approaches 6 figures. That might not have happened without that simple little connect. That's super important for you to know. All right, want to do some paydays? Oh, go ahead.
Chris and Zach, there's a question from Terry Hunter about due on sale clauses, whether they're still common in mortgages, and if so, how to get around it on sub 2.
Yeah, they're very common, and this comes up every time, so I don't want to kill a ton of time on this. It's super common. And the way that the attorneys structure this deal via the trust and the beneficial interest safeguards. I'm never going to tell you that it's a fail-safe, ever. I'm not an attorney. But I will tell you, when you have the right attorney doing them, you protect as much as you can. We've never had an issue.
Yeah, the reality is and that's what we dove in section 1, right? In the first 50 minutes, we talked about what our attorneys tell us to do in order to protect ourselves against a due on sales clause. We talked about the trust. We talked about the beneficiary of the LLC. That's why every single deal that you do, I would consider having 2 attorneys, an asset protection attorney and a real estate attorney. So that way, you know, all right, I got this deal. Here's how I set up everything, and then I'm going to go close it. Like the first conversations that we have. Make an email to our asset protection attorney. Say, here's what the thing is. Go ahead. Can you get everything set up? And then I connect them to my real estate attorney. We connect them to a real estate attorney, and they handle and get the deal closed.
Zach, why don't someone, I don't know who's on with us, the team, but have someone put the link in for PCS, for asset protection attorneys. That's going to be, especially if they're new and outside the community.
Yeah, Pete, if you could just throw in, I think it's smartrealestatecoach.com/PCS, and that'll get you a structured call with them, and you can let them know you're working directly with us on these types of deals.
Yes, Yuri, we have attorney and PA as well. I'm assuming you are not in Slack yet with us. You can send an email to support and they'll get it from me.
Love it. Yeah, we've been doing deals in Pennsylvania for like 8 years.
Yep.
All right. What other questions do we have?
We hit the numbers. I'm sure we'll generate more.
Yeah, let's keep rolling.
Wait.
All right, we are currently on the market, and yes, that is our Zillow listing. So expected buyer deposit. This is projections. We put this deal under agreement like a couple weeks ago.
Well, we're selling it for $399.9.
So where are we? Okay. Here, I'm gonna
Sold. Or potential sale up there. $399. So we're gonna project 40 grand. Whether, if you're new, whether that's upfront or Nick structures that over time, sometimes quarterly, monthly, whatever it might be. 40 grand over time or upfront, payday one.
Yep, monthly payment to the seller's mortgage.
Seller's mortgage PITI is $2137.
Okay. What are we on the market for rent?
We're in the market for $1975, plus we add back the taxes of approximately $400. So $2375. And some of you might be new to the community, so if this causes questions, great, we'll answer them. Our $2137 does include taxes, but we're training buyers to come to the table and understand, just like when they go get a loan, that they have to add the taxes. So we market it at a rate that we can then go ahead and add taxes when they come in. All of our videos, and you, if you're in the community, have access to them, have the buyer videos explaining this to them before they come to your buyer meeting.
Projected cash flow.
It's $238 a month. We only did the 48 months. Who knows if this is going to be a two-year deal or a 7, but we did 48 months and we came out with $11,424.
Okay. We bought it for
markup was $49.9.
Okay. Principal pay down on this?
$31,200. And again, for the calculations, guys, because I want to make sure you piece this all together and make sure you're not having any gaps. The calculation to get to that is simply, we took today's monthly payment and the principal pay down in it. So there's a principal pay down portion of the $2137. Obviously, like any other loan, that increases every month, but we're not gonna sit there and calculate that. So we just went with the lowest number today. And that comes to $31,200 over 48 months.
Do we have, do you know roughly what that is?
No, if someone can divide that by 48, we'll get it.
Chris, the price premium is $49.9. It's not the difference between the debt and the sale price?
No, we own 31 as well at the end.
Oh, so you added that, okay.
So we're in it for 350, technically.
Okay, got
Which,
it.
by the way, we could, if we were in the business of wholesale, we could wholesale this house tomorrow. The comps are strong in the area and it's next to an owl reserve and it's brand new development. So we're good at 350 or 351, wherever we're at. Who? Yep.
Who's next door?
Yep.
All right, 650 times 48. So this sounds like it's a really good interest rate.
Yeah. Yeah, 2.6.
2.6. Why didn't you mention that earlier? That is fantastic interest rate. That's an
you guys,
asset.
I don't think, in 33 years, I haven't seen rates that we had a year and a half or whatever ago. So I really, really don't think you're going to see them again. Who knows? But why not go out and grab a bunch of these, whether it's for yourself or your business?
Yep. Yeah, last couple deals we've done 2.6, 2.75, 2.25. It's amazing. I mean, just to spend time doing that. So what we then did was 49,900 plus 30.
Can you scroll up, Zach? Or down, whatever it is. Oh, yeah. Cash out payday 3 only is 41.1.
Yep.
The
So
bottom's cut off, Zach.
I don't think there's anything else on the bottom.
No, I mean, we can't see past the 40.
You can't.
If you can scroll up. I can't.
Can you guys see the cash out payment?
Yes, I can see that.
All right, I'll change my view.
Yeah, that's what I thought. All right, 41,100. All right, so let's add these up. I'll just go ahead and highlight it. So you got 40,000 plus 11,424 plus 41,000. What do we got for total profit?
92,524. If I'm off, somebody will yell, I'm sure, as usual.
You got it.
Good deal.
Wow, that's a first. Got through the whole deal and nobody questioned the numbers.
No, we're not done yet. Some real question.
Awesome. What other questions you guys have on this deal? I'm sure lots of them. So let's keep.
There was one question, how the price premium is calculated.
We just take the 319 and the 31,000 that were into it, and that the difference between that and the 399.9 as far as how we came up with the price. Is Nick back on?
I could speak. Yeah, I could speak to that. So there is literally on the street that runs parallel to where this property is, there's a comp that is similar in bedrooms, baths, and square footage that sold for 380,000, and that's today. So once we have that number, we want to round up within reason, and rounding up within reason. If we were like being greedy here, could we go over 400,000? Yes. However, we just want to round up within reason so there's no issue with appraisal or anything like that in the future. So that's why we rounded up only to 399.9 and not like 409.9 or 419.9.
Thank you.
Love it. Okay. What are some objections in how to handle regarding keeping debt in their name? Says Fred.
I mean, the coaches are on with us too, but let me address a few things here, Fred. First of all, throw a couple in the chat if you have some. But this usually is gonna be kind of hinged to their motivation, right? These guys want to leave tomorrow. That's their deal. If they didn't, they'd probably go conventional. If someone in the sub 2, it doesn't always lend itself to financial issues. Sometimes it's an issue of in this case, a move. Rick has done 2 or 3 of these when there's big equity in them. 3.
Right, he says.
Okay,
Get it
so
right, Chris.
So do this. Talk about the 3 scenarios briefly of why they did it, and were there any conversations about keeping it in their name?
There were no conversations about them as far as having a hard time with it, keeping it in their name. 2 of them, actually, all 3 of them were actually relocating. One of them, which was 2 of the properties that he owned, was moving to Virginia, and they'd have a 3rd mortgage, and they just wanted the first 2 taken care of.
And they were current, right? It wasn't like they weren't current.
Well, one of them was behind, but he caught it up before he signed with it, closed.
And how much equity was in that? Or how much was the biggest one you did with a lot of equity they had to wait?
There was about 90,000 in equity in one of them, and just short of that, the other one.
Yep.
Love it. Well, definitely stick around, guys. At 2 o'clock, we're going to bring these 2 back up to talk about their new deals. But Russ, you've done, I believe you've done some sub 2s.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
And you're in
similar.
Southern California, because I saw somebody with a question about Southern California and doing it with title companies. So if you wouldn't mind going sub 2 first.
Yeah, so the sub 2 that I got was similar. The guy already bought another home and his new mortgage was six grand a month. The house that I bought was $4 grand a month, so he was coming out of pocket 10 grand a month on their mortgages. So we agreed on a price. We agreed on the equity, which was around 300K, on or before 48 months, interest free. So then I just took it over sub 2, and then we got a tenant buyer in there, and it's doing well right now.
That's it. That's what you get. Cool, calm, and collected.
I mean, come on, it's no big deal.
Yeah. So talk about the hey, it's Bobby Prefontaine. Glad Bob showed up. Russell, talk about how you're closing these deals in Southern California, because most of them are title companies. So tell us kind of that process.
Yeah, I have there's a local title and escrow company that I work with that we've done a couple closings so far, as far as that. When I did do the sub 2, again, and when we closed, I transferred into a trust, and so they took care of that. And then
so they've obviously done it before, Rusty, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that they were familiar with what we were doing, so that she was able to handle it.
Love it.
Judy has a question, Zach, and just again on the attorney thing and the title company thing. We don't have every state that we've done a deal in, but like you hear in all these different states that we have, PA is one of them, Cal, obviously all our states. So all you do is reach out in the community.
Yeah, 100%. So
Judy,
go ahead, Judy.
My question is for Rick. Rick, your seller that had the 2 mortgages and then he was going to Virginia, did he already have a mortgage in Virginia, or was he going to get a 3rd mortgage?
He did have a 3rd one already in Virginia because his wife had already relocated, so he was the only one up here.
Okay. I was just kind of thinking, like, how would that impact him if he had to go get another one to have already 2?
Yeah, I don't know how they were able to accomplish that, but they did.
Well, if he's got huge income and good credit. That's
Huge
all.
income plus, was he renting those other properties, or are they both considered his residence?
They were renting them temporarily,
Yeah.
short term.
But he has
Judy,
a
I don't
lease
think he
in place.
had a $6 grand mortgage and a $4 grand mortgage and didn't have the income. You know what I mean? So that some people have 3 or 4 houses.
Yeah. But if you also, just throwing this out there, guys, if you have a lease in place, I mean, they're going to pull that off your debt to income ratio because you're not servicing that debt. Now, how much is going to be determined on the mortgage lender. But that's why a lot of people to this day still go get traditional loans because they're being serviced by somebody else. Go ahead, William, from his car.
So I was just wondering, like you talked about the one deal that the people were ready to move, so they didn't want to wait on a realtor. So how do we pitch? Because we'll need time to find a tenant buyer to put in the property.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you pitch that versus, waiting for it to sell traditionally?
Yeah. So we had 2 options here. This was just me emailing him back and forth, William. And my one option would have been give me 90 days to market it, which would have put me, because this is the beginning of March, April, May, June, right around the same time I told them that we would close. So I basically took the same amount of time knowing after speaking with Nick that we're pretty saleable. That's all. We were just comfortable doing the same date. Because like I said earlier, worst case, we have all the way till July 1 to find a buyer. Worst case. I'd like to find it before June 1 because we'll have a little bit of closing costs, a few grand. But we have all that time. So I didn't have to address it. But the other option would have been to address that and do 90 days. Kind of the same thing.
Well, also,
Okay.
we could have sent out multiple options too. We could have said, I'll give you this price for a contingency and this price for a commitment.
We didn't do that from the buyer contingency side, but on that note, William, we did put in the email. I gave him 2 offers. One was with a nothing. One was a little cash down. It was like 5 or 6 grand because I thought in my brain from talking to them they might want to have money to move. But the back end, I did a multiple of like 3 times that off, so they were getting very little in the back end. They opted to take the 31 full in the back end. I didn't play with the contingency, but yeah, we could have done that too.
Okay. Thank you.
You
bet.
got it, Will. Great question. Who's up next? Chris Lawler from Mile High.
Just a clarification question. I've heard that if you use a third-party servicing company for those payments, the banks qualify that payment from you faster with the seller that's trying to get the new mortgage. Is that true? Is there any credence to that?
With the
In terms of the
seller that's
DPI?
trying to get the new mortgage. Oh, I can't, if anyone else can speak to that. I know it helps the seller for the credibility, but I didn't place it that way yet, Chris. I don't know.
Just curious if you guys.
It might give some banks that, sure, but I don't know for a fact yet.
If I can chime in, Chris,
Yeah.
He is.
from
Hey,
an
Raphael.
from an underwriting standpoint, yes, anything that comes from a third party versus a personal entity or a personal person is much more solid or carries more weight with an underwriter. So yes, if you have a servicing company involved, I think it would be a plus.
Awesome, thank you. And you guys, Zach, you should type the name in there of Prosperity so everybody has that, because that's the third-party processor. Or if someone could type that in.
Just propsperity.io. If you go on that website, you can set up a call with Nathan. Nathan will walk you through it. That's for not only processing, but marketing and reporting for all your properties, whether they're
Good.
traditional or creative financing.
Good for you guys to know that, again, especially if you're not in the community, but a reminder for those of you that are, you get your first taken and you let go of it to Prosperity, so they market it, and then once you sell it, they do all the payments like an escrow company. You can go get new deals. That's much better than you messing with all that stuff. Kyle.
Yeah, I had a question as far as when you're talking to the seller, you offered him 28 there, and or you let him know he was going to get 28 on the traditional market, but then you offered him the 31, which is 3,000 over.
I actually had him a lot lower, just to clarify. When I did my email, I used 370 as my base and did those percentages, and it was a lot lower. It came out to like in the teens, but go ahead, same concept.
Oh, okay. So what was your thought process to come up with, like, obviously it's to this example, it's 3,000 more. How did you what made you know that number was a good number to go over or pay?
I didn't until I gave it to him. Again, I had him down in the teens, like 18-ish. So I came up with 31 for even 350, knowing that we were safe still if we had to dump the property or anything, because Nick was comfortable at 370, 380 all day long. No rhyme or reason, Kyle. It's what you can get, right? It's what you can get away with. I mean that in a positive way.
And Kyle, from like being like the seller's perspective, if you're gonna give them like 29,000, give them the 31, because the 3 in front of it's gonna make it a lot stronger, right? And that's just like, if you're that close, and it's not to say you want to do a drastic amount over, but I'm just saying if you're that close, a 3 is gonna look a lot better than a 2, because Chris already anchored him on what he was gonna get from if he sold traditionally. And to be able to change that from like mid 20s to 31, it makes a big difference in that gap.
Oh, I should have said this too, guys. This is important. When you're talking to sub 2, I critiqued about, 15 calls this morning, and this happened twice. Find out if they can go rent versus go buy. That's important. The wife said to me, we're just gonna go rent. We don't know if we like everything there. We're gonna go right away, and we want to rent. That told me that I was okay on that end too, because I didn't have to go qualify for anything right away. Just food for thought.
Thank you.
Great point. A lot of people are considering renting right now.
Yeah.
Because you can get cheaper rents than you can get for a mortgage payment on some houses right now.
Yeah, so you guys want a script for that? Simple. This is what I was doing the cost critiques this morning. Wouldn't you want to sell at the highest you can now with us, and then go rent while the market does what it's going to do? We don't know, but it's a little wonky right now. So why don't you go rent for a while? Most people like that.
Love it. Dan, you're back up. Dan from the breezy Palm Beach.
Yeah, I was wondering on your discussion of your buying out their equity, how you came up with the terms of no payments and so forth, and also the no interest. You might want to talk a little bit about how you came up with that or negotiated it.
Dan, I actually don't every deal we do, and I think Rick did the same thing, and Rusty, I assumptively say, I'll get you your equity, in this case 4 years, with no interest and no payments. I start with that every time. The only change I made again was I gave him an option to have a little bit of cash up front, a few thousand, and take a hit in the back end. But again, it was no interest, no payments. Do you guys do the same thing, Rick and Rusty?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And what I usually use is, as soon as I start paying interest, a lot of sellers prefer we not pay interest because it attracts the IRS and they'll be paying income on that. And that usually goes over well.
Yeah, and it's assumptive, right? And then Chris will talk about it to payday 4, right? So maybe 2 years down the road, you could, hey, if I can get you this much, lower it a little bit. If I can give you this much in your equity, would you be open to, taking it now, right? So
yeah, it's highly likely that we will do with that one, Rusty. Highly likely.
Right, yeah. What equity, yeah.
Yeah, Zach and I and Nick will go, hey, 2 years out, we have this other payday coming in, let's say. We call the seller and say, I know you got to wait 2 more years, but if we were to do something now, we're calling all our sellers, what's the least you could take? They always will discount it.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Well, I mean, what I think we may have glossed over too is, I'm guessing that Chris asked, like, what's the longest time they're willing to wait for their equity too? And that's where we came with the 48.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So just by simply asking
on the discussion of interest, do you actually mention interest and say no interest, or do you just say I'll pay this much until it's paid off over this much time?
I put in the email / preliminary offer, Dan, no interest and no payments, balloon in 4 years.
Yeah.
After discussion.
Yeah. Just a placeholder is really all it is. Cool. Good questions, Dan. Go back and enjoy the beach. Steve, Oz.
Yeah, so how far do you go in giving comfort with the mortgage that's on the property already? Do you just get that information from the current owner? Do you confirm with banks somehow? Pretty important to get a line on that. And we kind of glossed over it a bit. We had, $11,000 of principal pay down at 2.6%, but even knowing where in the amortization table is going to be important because that can influence that principal pay down as well too.
Steve,
okay,
finance
so
guy, he's got the questions.
As far as when and how I got it, Steve, I had her email me when the conversation was leaning to, hey, we think we're good, except we got to talk to the attorney. I said, email me your latest statement, and then when the attorney goes and closes it, we'll make sure it's current. We'll run title, see if there's any other liens. I don't. To your question about amortization, I don't think I've ever jumped into the table and see what year they're in. I just ask them what year they're in. I don't. As long as the number works for me for today onward, 650,
okay.
I'm fine.
Yeah, getting too far into the weeds then. Okay.
That's all right. No, you could pull it, but I just don't. There's no need to because the numbers work so well,
And just Chris, if you want to just clarify for those two, because somebody asked me last night as well. So when you go buy the sub 2, are you going to go ask the bank for the payoff amount and then put that into the agreement on the HUD?
The latest statement is what I'm sure every attorney does that a little different, as you know, Zach, but the latest statement will give us where we are. Or they can get a payoff as of that date. I personally like to alarm that.
Yeah.
Ring that bell.
Yep.